Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic: how do you handle people crying at work? As a funeral director, I tend to just touch them on their arm and hand them tissues. And stay quiet. That's a rough job. Does it affect you less the longer you do it? I feel like I'd be a wailing mess every time. Same thing as a job in public service, like a paramedic. Anyone who deals with the bereaved. You must keep a professional distance. You need to accept that the tragedies you're facing do not belong to you and find comfort in the fact that you're there to help through it. Then you still go home and find ways to cope. I work for a 911 center, you better believe there is crying. Especially when an employee is new and they give CPR to an infant and it's not a positive turnout, someone kills themselves while you are talking to them on the phone. Pretty soon your heart and soul die and you can deal with it, but something especially awful happens and it hits you. I have been doing it for 28 years and have seen plenty people come and go, who couldn't handle the stress. I also worked in a 911 center as a supervisor, was a really common occurrence. I'd always take them off the phone's /position they were working and offer them a break in a quiet place. I'd offer to be present or talk if they needed it, ask if there was anyone else they were more comfortable talking to, or offer alone time. Everyone's needs are different, so supportive options were my go-to. If someone needed to go home, I'd always let them go home and check in the next day. You're a good supervisor. Need more like you. My brother is a firefighter and one of the hardest people I've ever known. Literally never cries. Great at everything he does. When he first became a firefighter, he responded to a call where a drunk driver had hit someone head-on. Turned out it was a 16-year-old girl who had just gotten her license. I'll never forget the sound of his voice when he was telling my mom about it and didn't realize I was in the other room. You know that pitch you get when you're about to cry and your voice starts to tremble as he said she was just a little girl, Mom. He's seen worse since then, but I think he's become a little more hardened to it or doesn't show it as much. He probably hides it. Or at least thinks he does. It's a hard job. Cry harder to assert dominance. I have no award, so just take my precious virginity instead. It's okay, you can keep it. I usually provide a tissue. I often get hugged. My last job, we had a meeting and one of the people in the meeting, well, she seemed off. Everyone filed out and I kind of lingered, asked, "Hey, is there something wrong you want to talk about?" Boom, waterworks, she had to put her cat down this morning, etc. I am the guy in the office people cry on, I guess. That really should be considered an honor, even if you don't have the patience for it at the time sometimes. It is you're approachable and probably empathetic. Don't lose that. I'm a teacher, so it's a near daily occurrence for me. I have a jar full of candy, usually chocolate, on my desk. The kids call it sad candy, a chair, and a big round plush bird toy just the right size for hugging. His name is Sherbet, cause he's colored like rainbow sherbet. They can talk it out with me or just cry in silence if they'd rather, but I just sit with them until they're ready to rejoin the world. It's sad, but I have this shit down to a science. I had teachers like you. I still think about them decades later. Some of them made huge differences in my life and never knew it. Was debating going back to school and becoming a teacher myself to pay it forward, but I don't think it's in the cards for me. Thanks for being a good one. One day someone is going to look back and remember you as a person that took the time to help them through a difficult time with patience and compassion. I'm also a teacher, grades 6 to 12, and I have a chair in my room next to my desk that is specifically called the crying chair. Kids know they can come in and sit in it and I'll come over. I'll ask them if they want to talk or if they just need some time alone. It's almost a daily occurrence that someone comes to my room to cry. Sometimes they need a hug, other times they just want someone to listen. I be whatever they need me to be. I imagined this as an elementary school thing. I'm glad to see I was wrong, that it isn't age limited. Sherbet has heard some shit. I've let kids use him when they have to speak to the school social worker, so probably way more than any stuffed rainbow bird should hear. I follow the golden rule, so I ignore them, pretend not to see them, and later talk to them normally like nothing happened, because that is what I want in their position. Or you could just do the opposite and yell really loud, "Go be sad somewhere else." That way, next time you're crying you can be absolutely 100% sure no one will care. And it will even be genuine. "Excuse me, Clarice, Could you maybe cry after I'm done with this meeting? Thanks. Same. I tend to get more upset if someone checks on me, because now I'm embarrassed and feel exposed on top of what's causing me to cry in the first place. Since I never want to be the cause of that, I won't ever approach someone in that state. Are you okay? No, Maureen, I'm clearly not. Fuck off and let me work through it. Is there anything I can do? Then just listen. Often the listening is enough. In my experience, most people when they cry don't want advice, they want some to vent to. But that is just me, it might be different for some people. Right, and the point is that you'll expect them to say no, but still asking if there's anything you can do is often helpful. I work in healthcare, so this happens quite frequently. Usually it's patients. Most often, people just want their feelings validated and that someone understands them. That's all. Being empathetic goes a long way. Yes. Empathy truly goes a long way. In the veterinary industry, unfortunately, if you notice a co-worker is or has been crying, usually you pretend not to have noticed. Maybe ask them nonchalantly if they can do something for you that isn't client-facing for a while, like fill prescriptions, and don't bring it up later unless you're friends outside of work. Everybody cries at work at some point, and it's not even usually about a sick/dying animal. If a client is crying though, you have to be sensitive, empathetic, comforting, gentle, offer them privacy and condolences without smothering them. Clients cry for the reasons you expect, and of course it's hard to see them through it, because dealing with a sick or dying pet is hard. Staff will often shed a tear in these appointments too, but most often when a co-worker is crying it's because another person went out of their way to hurt them. Be kind to your veterinary staff, folks, we feel pain too. Vets are genuinely wonderful people. I can't imagine having to spend my day putting dogs to sleep. Deciding to put a sick or dying animal to sleep is the last kind thing you will do for a beloved pet. It's never easy, but it is a sweet and gentle gift that is given to the suffering, and you are strong for giving it to them, especially because it hurts you so much. For veterinary professionals, euthanasia is not the hardest part of veterinary medicine. I made a vet nurse cry last year. In-laws had to put their dog down after she'd had a stroke. I got off work just in time to rush over and meet everybody at the clinic. Got one last little half-tail wag in when she sniffed me, but it was plain she was hurting. The 5 of us all sat with her while the drugs were administered, and all 5 of us stayed after. Nurse offered the explanation that it was so hard to get people to be with their pets for euthanasia, even before COVID, and it was a bit overwhelming to see so much love for the family dog. When my dog passed when I was a child, me and my brother made a small wooden coffin with paintings on the side like hearts and other stuff. While I was crying at school because the time has come, my parents took my dog to the vet to get euthanized. My parents brought the small coffin with the drawings and the vet said she's never seen a family care so much for their family dog, and she began to tear up. Bust out the water bottle and spritz them while saying go on, git. You jest, but that's actually what I did to a friend of mine. They were in a bad mood, and the absurdity of being spritzed like a cat pulled them out of it almost immediately. I've done it to the guys at work when they are dragging their feet when stuff needs to get done. Someone who reported to me came to my office to ask about the process for reporting that her company laptop was no longer in her possession. Turns out her adult child was arrested and the police took every computer in the house, including hers. She didn't offer up the charge and I didn't ask, but she was barely hanging on. A bit later she came back to my office, shut the door, and said, "Can I just be in here a minute?" I told her of course. Then she broke down in tears, like soul-crushing, heart-breaking tears. I hugged her and just let her cry, until she pulled back. Then offered her some tissue and told her she could stay as long as she needed to. Honestly, I needed a tissue too. Opposite end of the spectrum, I had a young employee that I knew was looking to leave. He'd been very vocal about it to anyone who would listen. He was 3 years out of college but thought he should be running the department already. A training opportunity came up but with limited spots, basically only enough for a third of the team. I didn't include him in the training because I wanted someone who was planning on staying around so the training would benefit the team. He came into my office and cried because I didn't include him. He said he really needed that training on his resume to help him get a better job. I was dumbstruck, but I did offer him a tissue. I don't even know what to say about that second employee. Please spend more money on me, I'm leaving and it will help me at my next job. We can be so oblivious when we are young. I probably was this stupid or did some stupid things, but God, I hope not. It's only happened 4 times. 3 women / girls and 1 man. The man cried because his wife had recently passed away, so I gave him a pat on the back and left him. 1 girl cried twice because she and her boyfriend had broke up. The first time I tried consoling her, but she didn't want my old man paws on her, so the second time I just laughed and told her it was probably for the best as he was an asshole anyway. He was actually a nice guy, and that did the trick. She actually felt better. The 4th was a woman my age who just broke down in our office because her new kitchen turned out to be a total disaster. I just laughed and told her that kitchen was an asshole anyways, but strangely, it had no effect and the wailing continued, so I left. And then when an employee cried over the death of her dog, you told her it's okay, just reassemble it. It's okay, he was an asshole anyway.